Amy, and this is Book Tease, a podcast that celebrates the power of well-written smut. We are continuing our Lust of the Irish series this month with a book that I read years ago, and it's kind of stuck with me. I remembered loving it because it is set in Doolin, County Clare. That's where I went for my honeymoon with my husband, and well, obviously I went with my husband on my honeymoon, but we went to Doolin because I wanted to see the Cliffs of Moher. I wanted to see the Wild Atlantic Way. I wanted to experience the Burren. I wanted to just be out in the country. And so that's what we did. And I absolutely loved it. In many parts of Doolin, especially around the Aran Islands, they do still speak Gaelic. And it was just beautiful and lyrical to hear. And they mention that in this book as well. There's also a huge scene of traditional Irish music in Doolin. It's kind of what it's known for. So I enjoyed that when I was there. And in this book, it seems like every single character is a musician. So not realistic, but very sweet for this book. The whole gigantic O'Brien family, they're all musicians and they love to play in the pubs. And I love to go watch everyone play in the pubs. It really was like a nice community feel in Doolin. And so I loved the setting of this book. Okay. So this is Raven of the Sea. It's by Stacey Reynolds. And this is book one of the O'Brien Tales. There are about 12 books so far in the O'Brien Tales. That's a lot. I've not read them all. I have read the first 4, I think. Again, several years ago, I was just on a kick with it. And then I kind of moved off and never went back. Since then, I have gotten into a lot of romantasy. I've gotten into a lot of darker romance, dark academia. And I don't so much veer towards the sweet, dramatic, notebook style romances anymore. So it was really interesting knowing how much I was so into this series that when I said, okay, I'm going to do an Irish month, this book immediately popped in my head. I was like, well, I've got to feature Raven of the Sea because I loved its setting and everyone in it is Irish and it's just delves into the community. And so it was interesting going back to that, knowing that this is a very drama heavy. It's one of those tearjerker types of romances that I don't really veer towards. I'm not a fan of The Notebook. I'm not a hugely emotional person. So too much heavy emotion in a book. I like emotion. Don't get me wrong. I know that romance is geared towards emotion, but if it's too much, if it's drama just for the sake of it, if it's like made to make you want to cry, I'm not going to enjoy it so much. And so it was interesting going back to this book because that's exactly what it is. So I'm going to give my honest review today, knowing that it probably wouldn't match a review if I gave it 4 years ago. We all evolve. It's the nature of it. So it's fun, it's interesting, and I wanted to throw that in there. Okay. RFMC, make it cozy here. Our FMC is Branna O'Mara, very Irish name. Her father was first generation American. His family's from Ireland. And so she grew up with her dad telling her stories of County Clare. Well, her dad was killed in combat in Iraq. He was a Marine. And not long, well, I'll say not long, it was about 9 years later, her mom slowly died of cancer. So here she is at 23, an orphan. And her mother's only been gone for 9 months. So she's been living as an orphan for 9 months, and she just doesn't feel at rest. She's very lonely And even though she's taken over the family real estate business, she's successful. She's doing really well for herself at 23. She has no family ties. She feels like she has no roots. And she's still dealing with a lot of trauma from losing both of her parents at such a young age. So she sees this listing for a cottage in Ireland, in County Clare, in Doolin. And she's very interested. She's like, okay, I'm going to buy this. And this is where I'm going to set down roots. So at the start of this book, she is traveling, or she has just landed in Ireland. And she is venturing to this cottage, knowing that she's already put money in an escrow account. She's already, done everything she's supposed to do. She's got renters for all of her other properties, and she's packed up her whole life, and she is ready to settle down and plant roots here. And this is her second chance. This is her fresh beginning. And this is, what she hopes to be the beginning of the rest of her life. She wants to, put down roots and kind of start over. I want to dive more into the setting, because I think that's what drew me so much to this book. I've been to the Aran Islands, fell in love with them. I've been to, I've stood on the cliffs of Moher, and it was a mystical, magical, spiritual experience for me. I've been in the pubs. I've listened to the music. I even sang on stage at a pub in Doolin, and I loved it spoke to my soul. So I really just resonated with her discovering Doolin and her discovering the Aran Islands and her seeing the cliffs of Moher and her experiencing listening to traditional Irish music and hearing people speak the language and just falling for it. And I think that's why this book stuck with me so much, because of that. Okay, let's talk about our MMC Michael. Michael's a local boy. He is extreme masculinity. I think it's fair to say that, because even though he is very sweet and good-hearted, he is still very macho. He is still the height of masculinity. And so is his whole family. They're very Catholic. And faith plays a huge role in this book. Another thing I don't really look for in books in general, but especially in romances. But faith plays a huge role in it. He's a local boy, and he is also in the Coast Guard. He is a emergency diver, so he rescues the people who are drowning in the Atlantic. And he's also a musician, of course, because his whole family is a musician. Everyone in the family are musicians. So, of course, he's also a musician. He's also looking for a fresh start, because a year prior to the beginning of this book, he had his marriage annulled. He was married to Fiona, and apparently she was playing around all over, not just with tourists, but also with other people in the community. So high infidelity, and he found out about it, and they had the marriage annulled. So apparently they weren't really good together anyway, but, the infidelity kind of sealed the coffin there. So he's been not divorced, but his marriage has been annulled for a year, and he still hasn't really dated, and he's had his eye on this cottage for years. And he has wanted to live in this cottage for years, but the price was too high and blah, blah, blah. And now the time has come. Well, there is a mix-up. They're both ready to move in that day, and they can't, because there is a mix-up, and both of their offers have been accepted. And it's a little confusing, because we have Ned Kelly, who owns the cottage, and then we have Ned's daughter, who has power of attorney. So she can sign deals and stuff in his stead. And he accepted the one from Branna, and his daughter accepted the one from Michael. So we've had two offers. Both have been accepted. Both have been pushed through. Money's been exchanged hands for both. So both are ready to, neither one of them want to give up this cottage. And also both of them already packed up their whole lives to move into this cottage that day. So, oh, and they're both emotionally invested in this cottage as their means to start anew. There is an idea tossed on the table, ironically by Michael's father, that both of them live in the cottage for 3 months while Ned makes his decision and they can get everything figured out and hopefully sort of the confusion. And at any time during these 3 months, if one of them want to throw in the towel and say they're not going to do it anymore, then all's the power. It'll actually clear up the problem. So Branna gets the big bedroom with the tub in the bathroom, and Michael gets the other bedroom, and they're now living together, and they are bickering, and there's a lot of sexual tension. I mean, we've got a close proximity situation here. And during the time, like I said, there's a lot of bickering, a lot of sexual attention. He's also seen her dance in the rain because she loves the storm. And yeah, so it's building. It's slowly building. Well, of course, because this is a romance novel, they fall in love within the first month. They have 3 months, and they're 1 month has passed with them bickering, but learning about each other and slowly, grudgingly respecting each other. And now they're in love. But neither want to admit it. Neither wants to admit they even have any sort of feelings for each other. But it's obvious to everyone but them. So yeah, they're in love now. Well, we have 2 main catalysts that occur that make them finally admit their feelings. The first event is that Raven, or her name's not Raven, her name's Branna. I'll get to that. But he calls her Raven. Our first catalyst event, or main event that occurs, is that she witnesses him doing a rescue dive. So she sees him being dropped out of the helicopter into the wild sea to perform a rescue, and she's like beside herself worried, and she ends up cooking this huge meal and waiting up until like 2 a.m. or whatever for him to get there. And yeah, so she does that. That's the first event that occurs. And then like the next day, she wakes up with this super bad fever, and he sees her like delirious and shivering from this incredibly high fever. She's got 105 fever. It turns out it's a kidney infection. And he is like beside himself, worried about her, calling her doctor, calling his mother. And she has an extreme fear of hospitals because she has been to them so many times, watching her mother slowly decline and die. So she's got an extreme fear of hospitals. And so he's helping her get through that. And so those are the 2 main things that occurred. They both have to admit after that, like she was super worried about him. He was super worried about her. They have to admit they have feelings. So finally, after she's healed and he's been caring for her and she's got her medications and she's doing better, the tension finally comes to a breaking point, and they can't deny it anymore, and they end up coming together. Here's something I find problematic. Sweet little Branna does not tell Michael she's a virgin until they were in the act, and he notices that, hey, you're super tight. What's up with that? And then, he tries to make it good for her and everything, but I find that problematic. If you're comfortable enough with someone to have sex with them, you should at least let them know the information they need to know. Hey, I'm a virgin. Be a little careful this first time. Like their communication style sucks. Like the whole book. And half the time I'm sitting there wanting to strangle them both. Like, you just please have a conversation, for crying out loud. But if they did, then there would go the major plot point of the book. So I guess we do need some tension. So bad communicators they are. She ends up having a lot of her first with him. She has no sexual experience. She has her first orgasm with him. She has her first everything with him. And she's falling in love with not only him, but his entire family. Because she doesn't have a family. She's an orphan. She has no family. And now she's part of this community. And his family's accepted her and she's made friends. And she's never felt this accepted and loved before. And so she's getting she's getting in really deep here, which is scary for her. There's a side plot because of course there's a lot of drama points in this book. The side plot is Brenna's just a good person, a decent person. So along with having this real estate business, she also runs a charity for injured Marines. And she meets a fisherman who lost his arm during a fishing event, a tragedy, something happened and he lost his arm. And so he's having a little more trouble fishing. This is his whole livelihood. He provides local fish to the community. And so she puts together an entire community charity event for him. And the whole town's in love with her at this point. Like she gets the community involved. She throws this whole event. And during the course of putting on this huge event, she even wins over Fiona, Michael's ex. And she's been ostracized from the community ever since because Michael's such a beloved hero of the town. And she broke his heart and cheated on him. So she's been on the outs with the whole community. Well, sweet Branna uses her photography and speaks her praises. And she gets her back into the community. This is not realistic, but this is what happens in this book. Like, not only does she win over the mean ex, but she becomes friends with her and gets her back involved with the community. I have a question. Why is literally everyone in this book kind-hearted, just sweet, deep, and attractive? Everyone in the town is attractive and kind-hearted, and there's no assholes in the whole town. There's no ugly people in this town. It just seems improbable. Like, surely there's one person who's like, that guy's a dick. But no, not in this town. Literally everyone is kind-hearted and sweet and deep and has their own story. And it's just interesting. So during the course of this book, we find out, actually it was towards the end of it, where all the emotional climaxes were happening. We find out that a lot of her trauma comes from the fact that not only did she lose her dad in such a sudden, horrible way, but after his passing, her mom gave up on life. And she knew she had cancer. She knew early on, and she refused her checkup. She knew she was high risk, but she would not go get a checkup. She hid it, and she knew she had cancer, and she basically committed suicide by cancer by not getting any treatment and any help until it was way too late. And she had transferred everything into her daughter's name. She taught her the family business. She had it in her head, if I make sure my daughter is financially stable, then I can die peacefully without even attempting to fight for my life. And Branna found that out right before she died. After she was like terminal, she overheard a conversation and it broke her heart. Like, I'm not worth sticking around for. And so she's been dealing with all the emotional backlash from that since her mother died. And so she has these nightmares, and they feature her father and they feature her mother. And it's just, she needs therapy. So she's got all these inner issues. And so it comes out that that's one of the reasons why. Well, towards the end of the book, guess what? Because we need another catalyst. There's 1 month left. So they've only had 2 months. They've only been like together doing their thing for 3 weeks. And she finds out she's pregnant. Dun, dun, dun. Well, what did I say about Michael and his family? They're very, very Catholic. So she's terrified. She knows that one of the straws that broke the marriage with him and Fiona was that Fiona wanted children. And he said, I'm not having children with Fiona because I don't want to be trapped. She's trying to trap me in this marriage. She knows we have problems and I want out. Like, she's cheating on me. I'm not having a kid with her. Well, instead of talking to him about it, Branna took that as he never wants to have children. And so when she finds out she's pregnant, she's like, look, I really care about him. I don't want him to feel like I trapped him. I also don't want him, and his family would make him get married. They would pressure him to marry me. And I don't want that. I don't want it because he's obligated or because I'm pregnant. And I also don't want him to think that I'm trapping him into this relationship so that I can keep this cottage. Because she had already decided that she loves him so much, she can't take this cottage from him. So she's going to be the martyr and she's going to figure out something else. And she already has the local real estate agent, Jack, looking for her another place because she's already decided that at the end of the 3 months, she's going to bow out and let Michael have this cottage. So she's like, I don't want him to think that I'm trapping him or finding some crazy way to keep the cottage. I genuinely don't know why I'm pregnant. I've been taking my birth control and, well, we find out that when she was sick, they had her on super heavy antibiotics and that's caused her birth control to not work as well. And that's how she ended up pregnant. So she does go to the doctor and she figures that out. So she freaks out a little bit and she's due to go to Boston for, because the charity event went great. She's got to go with the fisherman because she's the spearhead of this charity. She needs to go with him to get his surgery so she can take care of everything. So she's already got this trip planned to Boston. Well, she decides she's just not coming back. She's not going to tell Michael or anybody that she's not coming back. She's not going to say her goodbyes and she's not going to tell him she's pregnant. She's just going to vanish into the wind. So she goes and she sends a letter back with the fisherman and says, here's a, give this to Michael. It's my information because I'm on another flight and my phone may not work because I'll be traveling. So give this to him. And it's a letter with a key saying, I basically I care about you. You can have the cottage and I'm not coming back. So she gets scared and runs is what happens. Well, he doesn't take kindly to this and he throws a huge fit. I mean, he goes into a funk for a few days. And during one of his fits, he's throwing stuff around and the trash can spills over. Well, there are some ravens, of course, because this book has a lot of stuff like that just pops up. Like she has a nightmare and her father's telling her something and then she wakes up and realizes, oh, it means this. Well, these ravens are picking at something in the trash and he shoos them away. And that's when he finds the receipt for the pregnancy test. And then he finds the pregnancy test in the trash and he sees that it says positive and he's like putting pieces together. So then he goes and he confronts her doctor and he's like, I want you to verify this is what happened. And she's like, patient doctor confidentiality. I cannot tell you that. But she says it in a way that he basically takes it as confirmation. And she, he's like, Branna ran off and I can't get a hold of her. And now I know she's pregnant. I want to take a second and break this down because I found this whole plot line problematic. I found it problematic because her pills didn't work because of antibiotics, which they both knew she was on. And she ends up pregnant. So she's alone. She has no family. She's scared. She is in love with him. She's in love with his family. And she doesn't want to be rejected from them when she already feels like she's been rejected by her mother. And, she's dealing with emotional trauma. And so she runs because she's scared. And now she's pregnant. And she doesn't know what to do, but she does know she doesn't want him to look at her like, you trapped me. She doesn't want him to resent her. She wants to have these good memories of a time where she was loved and embraced and cared for and had a big family. And so that's why she runs. However, here's the problematic part. His family's super Catholic. And one of the first reactions they all have, him included, when they're discussing, like, I found out Britta's pregnant and she ran off. One of the first things that gets brought up is, oh my God, she's an American. Americans have more opportunities in America. I hope she didn't run off to have an abortion because she's not like that, right? Like, she's a good person. She wouldn't do that, would she? I found that so problematic. Like, an abortion is the worst possible thing you could do. And she's only 23. She's young. She's scared. Why is it automatically, I hope she's not being villainous and aborting your child? When you've been telling her nonstop, or you've been telling her repeatedly that you don't want children with your ex-wife. I mean, she's got cause to think that you don't want children. That's what you've said. Just because you know in your mind it was because of Fiona and not just your general desire to not to have children. Like, you suck at communication. You're part of the problem, Michael. You're part of the problem, man. Don't villainize her. I don't know, that really bothered me. I know that I'm very liberal, so yeah, there's that, but that still bothered me. Anyway, this is a romance novel, so of course we have to tie things in a pretty bow now. He and his family do a bunch of research to find out where she's at, and they confirm, they call in and I don't know, whatever. They find a way to confirm. I won't go into details because we don't need to. He knows where she's at. He flies to America to get her back. And of course, they fix everything with one single conversation. And suddenly it's like, oh, no, I love you. I do want children. I just didn't want children with Fiona. And blah, blah, blah. And they fix it. And now they're both happy. And here's one thing, because it continues this thread of the men are the men and the women are the women. I know you know what I mean by that. She keeps apologizing for being pregnant. Like, it doesn't take two to make that happen. Like, he's not the more experienced party. Like, she did something wrong? She didn't do anything wrong. She was taking antibiotics because she got really sick. And he could have guessed that something like this could have occurred just as much as she did. And he took zero precautions. He didn't use a condom. He didn't even pull out. So he's just as much at fault. She has no need to apologize. And that really angered me because he doesn't say, hey, you don't need to apologize for that. Or, hey, there's zero accountability on his part about that. It's just like, oh, I'm happy. Don't worry about it. I'm happy. Well, how about don't apologize? Anyway, she's such a strong, brave woman for so many things, and she has no problem standing her ground. But when it comes to this, it rubbed me wrong a bit that she just kept apologizing, and she kept saying she was stupid for leaving. And I should have said, he didn't give you any cause to feel like you could talk to him about this. He's just as much a part of the issue. He could apologize as well. It's not all on you to come to him and confess all and do all. I get why she ran. I get why she was scared. So her apologizing constantly and saying that she was stupid for doing this is not necessary, not needed, and really agitated me. Obviously, this didn't agitate me like 4 years ago when I read the book, but it agitated me this time. So guess what? She's having twins because twins run in Michael's family. And she figured out she was having twins before she ran off. So that was another reason she was so scared. So he's thrilled. He's like beside himself excited because now he has the woman of his dreams, the woman he was already in love with, and he's got twins. Hey, and guess what? They already have a cottage together. So everything's tied up in this beautiful little bow. Added to this tying things in a bow, a friend of the family is there. she's really close to, she has a best friend named Anna, and her father's also in the military. So they were military brats together. And her father treated her really well, and especially after her father died, they were best friends, and he was there with her father when he passed in Iraq. And he tried to take care of her mother and her, and he even fell for her mother a bit. Of course, her mother was so closed off because she missed Brenna's dad that I mean, yeah, she wouldn't entertain it or accept his love. But he still really cared for her. And he kept, her mother gave him a letter for Branna and said, don't give it to her until I've been gone for a year. I feel like she needed this. She spent a whole year in turmoil, but her mother's like, oh, yeah, like in a year, give her this. And it's an apology letter for giving up and for leaving her, and how much she regretted it. And now that she regrets it, it's too late. She can't do anything about it. Like, she can't make it better now. And she will always regret that, and how sorry she is. And so after this letter, she's able to kind of forgive her mother and have that inner healing. Another way we wrap this all up in a pretty little bow is, it turns out, hey, guess what? Branna does have living relatives. Ned Kelly is a distant cousin. Remember Ned Kelly? The guy who owns the cottage that her and Michael both were trying to buy? Well, he is distant cousin to Branna's mom. And one of the things her mom did to make things better for her after she knew she was going to die and she couldn't do anything about it, and she was having all these regrets, is she started looking into her genealogy to find more family, and she found Ned. And so she reached out to him, and they got to talk a bit. And she told him, hey, don't tell her that she has family for a year after I pass. What the fuck is wrong with her mom? Like, apparently a lot of things. But she didn't want her daughter to have any sort of support for the first year after her passing. Like, she's like, hey, I found family for you, but they can't tell you that for a year. Here's an apology letter, but it can't be given to you for a year. Like, what? Hello? She needed support. Anyway, Ned sent her the listing for the cottage anonymously to lure her to County Clare. And so that was kind of the inner workings there. So at the end of the book, she goes from having like no family at all to this huge family. Now she's got the Kellys, and she's got Ned Kelly and his daughter. That's her family. And then she's got Michael and all his family. And she's already creating a family for herself with twins. So she's goes from being utterly alone to having this whole community that loves her, this whole family that she can be with. And it's just so fulfilling for her. And Michael's family arranges a rushed wedding before she starts to show. So now she's married to Michael. That annoyed me. Very Catholic. They all know she's pregnant. They all know it's Michael's. They all know she was a virgin. And they still are like, oh, we got to have a wedding before you start to show and before the babies are born, because they must not be born out of wedlock. So that just was a little eye roll moment. I mean, it's because they both wanted it. It was sweet. But at the same time, it was a little bit of an eye roll moment. I ultimately think Branna needs therapy still. I think she went through a lot of emotional trauma, and I feel like one letter from her mother is not going to heal everything. But we as the reader are supposed to believe that she's fully healed, that found family, a renewed sense of faith, and love in general is going to be all the healing she needs, and she doesn't need to actually address her mental health. Yeah, that was just something that popped in my head as an advocate of therapy, is that she really could use some. Tig, love that name, by the way. Then when I found out I was pregnant, I was making a list of boy and girl names, wanted to know what I would name a kid. And of course, I was looking at Irish names, and I love the name Tig. and it's spelled Tadgh. No, sorry, Tadhg, and it's pronounced Tig, and it means poet. And I just love that name. Well, Michael has an incredibly handsome, adorable cousin named Tig, and he is one of the first friends that Brenna makes. And it's a lot of jealousy inducing there's a lot of jealousy that spurs up from this friendship with Michael, especially when he didn't want to admit his feelings. He was just so jealous that she was so close to Tig, and Tig was so sweet to her, and blah, blah, blah. And Tig should have said, dude, she only has eyes for you. Tig was a big push for them to finally admit their feelings. But another part of what ties everything together is that she has a conversation with him and finally pushes him to follow his dreams of being in the Garda, which is the Irish police force. So at the end of the book, he's like, guess what? I joined the Garda and I'm going to academy and all of that. So like she's affected everyone's life for the better at this point. Well, the book keeps going. It keeps going. And then we witness drama at the birth of her twins. Of course, we can't even just have that go smooth because she's so terrified of hospitals still. Like after all of this, she's still scared of hospitals. Of course, because she needs therapy. And she wakes up just in time because she had a dream with her mother in it. And so she wakes up just in time. And the placenta's ruptured for one or something like that and not the other. And so one's ready to be born, the other one's not. So she has to have an emergency C-section. She has to go into the hospital. And his whole family is there to help her and support her. Michael's there. Tig's there. His dad is there who treats her like a dad. I mean, so yeah, she has everyone there to help her. And one thing I have to point out, like it all goes well. Babies are fine. She has one boy and one girl. And, everything works out beautifully. But I have to point out, one thing I didn't care about with this book is the same reason I don't like The Notebook. It's the same reason I don't like a lot of these emotional type books. This book was written like its primary goal is to make the reader cry. And that's not my main reason for reading books. I'm reading entertainment books for entertainment. I want to feel good. I want to feel lighter. I want to feel intrigued. I do not want to feel sad. Do enough of that on my own. I don't want to feel sad. So it seemed like everyone in this book is so emotional and everything in this book is so dramatic. Every event is dramatic. Everyone has this backstory. It's just, even the overly masculine men will cry at the drop of a hat. It was just a bit much for me. I still liked the book overall. I still thought it was sweet. I still absolutely loved the setting. I like the family dynamics. Everything seems to be tied into music. But the way they did the location is what bumps this book up for me and brings it from a 3 to a 3.5 star. So that's my rating. It's 3.5 star. I wouldn't read it a third time. But I liked it. And I probably won't go and continue the rest of the series because I think I got enough. Of it. But I still liked it. And I'm still glad I included it because if we're talking about Lust of the Irish and we're talking about Irish settings and we're talking about Irish people, this book has that and it's the beauty of it. So it really is the beauty of this book. The Irish people, the Irish culture, the Irish landscape. So 3.5 star. It's only a 2 flame though. Like the spice level is only a 2 flame. We get open door scenes, but it's all very vanilla. It's all very sweet. It's all very passionate and sexy and beautiful and stuff. And Michael has some words. He's hot, but it doesn't pop above a 2 spice level. So let's move on to quotes. Okay, this quote I had to include. It's a little long, but I had to include it because it explains the whole title of the book, Raven of the Sea. This is where it came from. This is a conversation between Sorka, which is Michael's mother, and Branna. Sorka says, "Do you smell the sea?" Branna thought it was an odd question, but she answered it. "Yes, of course." "And do you hear it? Do you hear the water?" Branna was starting to get the feeling Sorka was teasing her. "Yes, I can't see it, but I can hear it, don't you?" Sorka didn't answer. "Omara, do you know what it means?" Branna thought she knew the gist of it. "I think it means water." Sorka shrugged. "No, not exactly. Close, but no. It means of the sea. Branna Omara means raven of the sea. This place is special. It's not far from the cliffs, but far enough. It's only some who hear it and smell the ocean. The sea's in their blood. I saw you here, smelling the sea air with your black hair wild in the wind. You've flown home, wee raven, haven't you?" Very flowery language, very sweet. And it explains her name, Branna O'Mara, means raven of the sea. And she's described a lot as looking ethereal, very like pale porcelain skin, dark hair, so dark brown it reads as black, beautiful eyes that are the color of the ocean in a storm. Like she's described as looking like a selkie a lot. And just because she's so beautiful and she's so petite. So yeah, Branna of the sea, raven of the sea. And she looks like a selkie, so that it just fits. Here's a conversation between Tig and Branna that felt a little meta to me. Branna says, "Why didn't you tell me?" He just gave her a questioning glance. "About your dad, I mean. You never talk about yourself. You just listen." He looked at her lovingly. "This isn't my story, love. It's yours." He has a book in this series. And I have read his book because I liked Tig quite a bit. And just like, this isn't my story, love. It's your story. The reader's going to hear my story in a later book. So I just thought that was really cute. And yeah, a little meta in a way. And here's a quote from Anna. We barely get Anna. It's Branna's best friend. And when she runs off, she runs to South Carolina and she's staying with Anna. And Anna's very sassy, very Southern, very, just no nonsense. I mean, I like her. But here's our quote. And I had to include it because it was hilarious and so Southern and something I would say to my friend. She says, "You know I love you. I'll raise those little rugrats with you like something off of Lifetime for Women, if that's what you want." Anna's a doll. I love her. And she has her own book. She's actually featured in the second book. Spoiler alert. Time for casting. And I'm proud of this casting. First off, I'm going to say I wouldn't watch this as a movie. Again, I keep saying it, did not care for The Notebook. And I think this is in the same vein. I think if they did make this into a movie, it would do really, really well. Because people tend to like those kind of romances, those sappy movies, those tear jerkers. And so I feel like people would be all over it. So they could make it into a movie. I probably wouldn't watch it though, because I'm not trying to cry at the movie theater. But for Branna, I'm casting Mackenzie Foy. That's right, Renesmee herself. I hate Twilight. Oh, look, I keep talking about all the stuff I don't like. I'm sorry. I'm Miss Pessimistic today. I didn't care for Twilight. I've never read the books. Maybe that's the problem. I've only ever seen some of the movies. I haven't even seen the movies with Renesmee in it. But I didn't care for the acting, so Anyway, maybe I'll read them one day and see if the books are better. The book usually is better. But she doesn't look like that little girl anymore. She's got this ethereal beauty that they describe Branna as having. Just like, how did I describe Branna as still wrapped in soft velvet? She is brave. She is fierce. And she is very quietly fierce. And she's got an ethereal beauty. And I'm telling you, Mackenzie Foy has that same ethereal beauty. She looks like she is a fairy or a Selkie. She just looks otherworldly, just like Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler has that same quality, which is why she made a kick-ass elf. And I think Mackenzie Foy has that same quality. She's real petite, just like Branna, and she's quietly fierce. That's who I'm locking in. And for Michael, I'm going Jack Renner. He is an Irish actor. He was in Transformers: Age of Extinction. And he's got like that. He looks very Irish. He's got gorgeous blue eyes. He kind of looks like Chris Pratt, not gonna lie. Not mad at it, but that's who he looks like. He's got the right build. He's super tall. Man's like 7 foot tall. But he's both got this James Bond thing going on when he dresses up, and he also looks like he could be a coastal protector. Like, you know, the local hero, the good boy, the sweetheart, the quick to smile. You know, just his look really fits it. So that's who I'm locking in. Tell me what you think. Do you like sappy romances? Is that your jam? I need to know. I need to know that I'm not the only one who doesn't want to cry when I read a book. Help me feel like less of a robot, please. If you like this, please rate, review, subscribe. Each episode can also be found on YouTube at Book Tease Pod. Also, hit me up on the socials, please. I would like some interaction on there. I'm begging you. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Book Tease Pod. Theme music is by The Scraps. And until next time, stay spicy. Baby.